dear audience. Welcome back to Coding Reads, your essential frequency for everything related to computing, informatics, and technology. I am your host, Albert Carpenter, and today we are diving into a topic that is reshaping how we interact with the digital world. We're discussing the book, Mastering Prompt Engineering, Strategies for Effective AI Communication by Humberto L. Verona and Selena Harold. To help us unpack this fascinating guide, we have a very special guest with us today, a loyal listener and tech enthusiast who has been meticulously studying this text, Aaron Lee. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hi, Albert. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here on Coding Reads. You know, I picked up this book because I felt like I was just scratching the surface with tools like ChatGPT. I wanted to understand the mechanics behind it, and mastering prompt engineering really opened my eyes. The authors describe prompt engineering not just as asking questions, but as an art and science of formulating inputs to get the exact output you want. It is less about chatting and more about programming with natural language.
That is a great way to frame it. I think many of our listeners assume that AI just knows what we want. But this book argues that the user is actually the pilot. I noticed early in the text, the authors use a beautiful analogy comparing a prompt engineer to a conductor, shaping the interpretation of a symphony. Did that resonance of control stand out to you as you read through the foundational chapters?
Absolutely, Albert. That analogy is perfect because it highlights that the AI has the potential, the instruments, so to speak, but the quality of the music depends on the conductor's direction. The book takes us through the history of this, moving from the rigid rule-based systems of the past to the modern transformer architecture that powers LLMs today. What struck me was how they emphasized that a vague instruction usually leads to a generic result. They stressed that we need to move from implicit assumptions to explicit instructions. You cannot just assume the AI knows you want a recipe for a vegan dish. You have to state vegan explicitly to get the right result.
Specificity seems to be the golden rule here. I was looking at the chapter on techniques, and I was fascinated by the concept of role-playing. It seems simple, but the book claims it changes the entire output. Did you try any of those specific strategies mentioned, like assigning a role?
I did, and it is surprisingly effective. The book explains that when you assign a role, like telling the AI to act as a board-certified cardiologist, it guides the model's linguistic choices and knowledge retrieval. Instead of a dry medical definition, you get an empathetic explanation suitable for a patient. But the technique that really blew my mind was chain of thought prompting. The authors explain that if you force the model to think step by step and articulate its reasoning before giving an answer, it significantly improves performance on complex reasoning tasks, like math or logic puzzles. It is like asking a student to show their work to ensure they aren't just guessing.
That is fascinating. It is almost like we are teaching the AI how to think, or at least how to process information linearly. But Aaron, we know these models aren't perfect. One of the biggest fears in the tech community is hallucination, where the AI just makes things up. Does mastering prompt engineering address how to stop the AI from lying to us?
It does, and they take it very seriously. They discuss a technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. Basically, since an LLM's internal knowledge is static and cut off from a certain date, RAG allows the model to retrieve relevant, up-to-date information from an external database before generating an answer. It grounds the AI in facts. The book also warns us about the black box nature of these models. Even with good prompting, we have to be aware of biases inherited from training data. The authors are very clear that prompt engineers have an ethical obligation to design for safety and fairness.
I am glad you brought up the ethical aspect. It sounds like this book isn't just a technical manual, but also a guide on responsibility. As we look toward the future, did the authors give any indication of where this field is going? Is prompt engineering a temporary fad, or is it here to stay?
They definitely see it as a long-term skill, almost a new form of digital literacy. One of the most exciting future trends they discuss is the rise of agents. These aren't just chatbots that answer one question. They are specialized AI systems that can plan, execute actions, and use tools to solve complex workflows. The book actually provides templates for these agents in the appendix, like a Docker Genius or a text summarizer that acts with a specific purpose. It suggests that in the future, we will be orchestrating teams of these AI agents, and our ability to communicate with them, our prompt engineering skills, will define our productivity.
That is a powerful vision of the future. It seems that mastering prompt engineering is a comprehensive roadmap for anyone, from developers to writers, who wants to stay relevant in this AI-driven era. Aaron, thank you so much for sharing your insights and guiding us through this text. It sounds like a must-read for our audience.
It really is, Albert. It transforms the AI from a mysterious magic box into a tool you can actually master. Thanks for having me on the show.
And thank you to everyone listening. This has been Coding Reads. Keep refining your prompts, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next episode. Goodbye.
Welcome into Code.